हेलो दोस्तों एंड वेलकम टू यूपीएससी अड्डा। आप सभी का स्वागत है आज की हमारी इस नई वीडियो में। और आज हम लोग वर्ल्ड हिस्ट्री में सोशलिज्म इन चाइना इस टॉपिक पे बात करेंगे और चाइना की जो मॉडर्न हिस्ट्री है उसको देखेंगे। तो बात स्टार्ट होती है 1949 टू 1956 तक। उसमें जो रशिया में स्टालिन का एरा था 1929 टू 1953 तक जो चला था। तो स्टालिन लाइक कम्युनिज्म वाज फॉलोड बाय द चाइना, दैट इज कलेक्टिवाइजेशन ऑफ एग्रीकल्चर हुआ। अलॉन्ग विद दिस इन इंडस्ट्री फोकस ऑन रैपिड एंड हैवी इंडस्ट्रियलाइजेशन किया गया। रशिया गेव एड एंड ऑल्सो प्रोवाइडेड एक्सपर्ट एंड technicians, so China could draft its first foreign policy. The first 5-year policy was of great success, as all targets were overachieved. And also, unlike China, Mao used persuasion rather than the coercion and convinced people for collectivization. 1954 में 100 flower campaign चला. There were some voices within the Chinese Communist Party who were unhappy with economic policies in China and wanted introduction of the capitalist measure on the line of USSR under the Nikita Khrushchev. Happy with the first 5-year plan result, the Mao launched a feedback campaign. The results was Mao realized that communism was still not secured in China, as many demanded capitalistic measures. Along with this, middle class managers complained about the workers, and hence Mao realized that Russian method strengthened the bourgeoisie, as there is an excess focus on industrialization and factories are under the control of middle class managers. And he also criticized Nikita Khrushchev when Nikita talked about peaceful coexistence with capitalism. Mao accused Nikita of changing the core principle of Marxism, as Karl Marx has favored the end of capitalism. And in 1958, Mao launched his own version of communism by adopting policies and he thought were best suited for the communism in China. फिर बात करते हैं ग्रेट लीप फॉरवर्ड की, जो कि पीरियड था 1956 टू 1976 इन चाइना, एंड दिस पीरियड इज़ टिपिकली कॉल्ड एज माओइज्म. तो द चेंजेस वाज डन इन डिफरेंट फील्ड्स. तो फर्स्ट इन इकोनॉमी के स्फीयर में देखें अगर, तो इंस्टेड ऑफ रैपिड इंडस्ट्रियलाइजेशन फोकस किया गया ऑन एग्रीकल्चर सेक्टर, एंड दिस वुड स्ट्रेंथन द स्टेबिलिटी ऑफ कम्युनिज्म इन चाइना, एज मासेस वर पीजेंट्स and hence masses would benefit from the communism. There was to be gradual industrialization and not rapid industrialization. The resources were to be devoted more to the agriculture sector. Industry में instead of centralized industrialization by establishment of big factories in cities that result in mass migration from rural to urban areas, there was to be focus on decentralized industrialization. Mao set a goal of having 6 lakh backyard steel furnaces, that is small factories spread across the hinterland of the villages, and manufacturing tools and small machines for agriculture sector. Hence, this way industrialization sector was to support agriculture sector. Focus was on labor incentive industries rather than the mechanization. This would because China had huge population, and hence Mao focused on reducing the unemployment. And industrialization was to be achieved, but gradually and over long term. Mao was ready to trust the peasants with the stability of communism. In agriculture sector, Mao came up with the invention of communes. एक communes क्या थे? तो commune was an unit of organization, the peasantry like a collectives. However, it was much bigger than the collective जो रशिया के थे, and the commune had more than 75,000 people, while a collective had around 1,500 people. The idea was that the commune should act as a unit of local self-government. Each commune was allocated 30 to 40 technicians along with some doctors and also party cadres. There was to be an administrative hierarchy in the commune with representation of the people. A commune was empowered to run the schools and crèches, so females can participate in the workforce, and could run and set up the small factories like small hospitals like UPSCs जो होते थे, and it could develop small infrastructure in form of local roads, check dams and other small integration projects. Impact क्या हुआ Great Leap Forward का? So in short term there was negatives and economy suffered as there was a reliance on the party cadres that was less qualified in implementation of this and not on the middle class engineers and managers. GDP suffered because of less focus on the industrial sector. In short term there was less growth in heavy industry. Also in agriculture sector there was bad harvest due to vagaries of nature. Positives क्या रहे Great Leap Forwards के? Due to focus on light industries, China did not face shortages in light industries unlike the USSR. There was no mass migration and social uprooting of the rural masses. Except for bad harvest in short term, China met the food security challenge and there was no big famines in the China. Despite a huge population, China was able to tackle unemployment due to focus on the labor incentive industries. Due to the focus on agriculture, female enjoyed a better status as agriculture has no participation of the females. Great Leap Forward commune ensured public participation in local governance and hence this model was close to the idea of socialism from below. So due to the Great Leap Forward, a relatively prosperous rural community lived in the countryside with access of basic services like health, education. In 1976, even gradual industrialization resulted in a strong foundation of heavy industry in the form of a robust steel sector, strong machine building industry, oil industries, etc. Then the next period in China was of Cultural Revolution, which lasted during the period of 1966 to 1969. And due to the problems of implementation of Great Leap Forward in short term, the criticism of Mao within the party increased by sections which favored industrialization and also by the right wing which favored the capitalist measure. And hence now the Mao began a propaganda campaign to silence his critics, which is called as Cultural Revolution. Call was given to the youth of China to go to the masses and gather support for the Great Leap Forward in favor of Mao. The campaign was led by a gang of four that included who supported Mao, including his wife. The political opposition was purged as leaders who opposed Mao were punished. For example, Deng Xiaoping जो थे was sent to the countryside for 4 years, so he empathizes with the problems of rural masses. And his son was also tortured, who later committed suicide. The Mao supporters left schools and colleges and participated in the propaganda by conducting rallies, holding public debates, street plays that attacked the critics of Mao. Soon the Mao supporters went out of control and there was a mass violence and destruction of property of those who was considered anti-Mao. Mao himself seems to have lost control over his supporters and finally the Cultural Revolution was called off with Mao being given a clean chit, and that is he was not held responsible for destruction during the Cultural Revolution. Those who engaged in violence were jailed and there was huge destruction, and some argue that China lost a decade of economic progress during this period. However, the Cultural Revolution ensured that Great Leap Forward continues on the Marxist line. Then the period of 1976 onward, there is a period of market socialism by Deng Xiaoping. So after the death of Mao, the 1976 right-wing leader Deng came to the power, and he implemented the capitalistic reforms referred to as market socialism. Market socialism implies using capitalism to achieve effective efficiencies in the economies. However, in polity, there is a domination of socialism, and hence the surplus generated by an efficient capitalist economy is utilized by social good. Hence, while the engine is of capitalism, the steering was to be held in the hands of Communist Party, and Deng firmly believed that only capitalism can modernize the China. However, he also firmly believed in one-party system. and he was of the view that multi-party democracy is prone to capture by capitalists, and hence one-party system is essential for preserving the communism. So there were several reforms taken during duration of 1976 to 84. So impressed with Singapore, लगभग thousands of Chinese officials were sent to learn their policies, and now China adopted open door policy, whereby there was decreased trade barriers to boost international trade. China took loans from foreign government and foreign banks, and joined IMF and World Bank in 1980s, imported modern equipments and machineries. In 1976, constitutional amendment allowed family businesses, and in 1980, special economic zones were set up where Chinese could open private companies, and FDI were allowed into special economic zone. These special economic zones become the pillars of Chinese growth. The profit motives were introduced in the PSUs in the form of bonuses and profit sharing schemes. In agriculture, more money was given to the communes for the state procurements, lower taxes on communes, and communes were given control over the profit utilization, financing, and planning. In reforms of 1984 onwards, in agriculture sectors, communes were broken up and land use rights were given to the individuals. लीगल ओनरशिप एंड जो लीगल ओनरशिप थी वो कम्युनिटी ओनरशिप पे रखी गई. द मोनोपोली ऑफ द स्टेट एज द ओनली बायर was ended, and now agricultural produce could be sold in the open market. Market price was introduced, and administered price for agricultural commodities ended. When we see the industry sphere, the privatization of unviable PSUs were done. PSUs operations to be fully subjected to market competition. For decentralization, the local provincial leaders were given power to experiment with the goal of increasing economic growth. In 1990, Shanghai Stock Exchange were opened. In late 1980s, freedom to travel was given for abroad, and until then only officials and business travel was allowed. 1993 में the company law allowed formation of companies of different kinds, and gradually क्या हुआ, the competition oriented PSUs were removed, and their dependence on state budget for their financing. And today China has a strong state sector, as PSUs contribute लगभग 1/3 of GDP and provide 1/10 of employment. Gradually the Chinese economy get integrated with the world economy, and it joined WTO in 2001, and then negotiated with the Britain in 1984 that Hong Kong be returned to China by 1997, and negotiated with Portugal in 1987 that Macau जो था be returned to China in 1999. China was to respect the civil liberties and the political and economic system of for 50 years after this handovers. So one China two system policies were adopted under this, and some argue that there is a state capitalism in China and not the market socialism. As market socialism, profit made by the companies are taken by the government through higher taxes, and then they are distributed to people as social dividends. लेकिन चाइना में क्या हुआ, the companies including PSUs were allowed to retain the profit and enjoy a business friendly tax regime. In state capitalism, the state through its PSU participate in the capitalistic economy with purpose of profit motive. In China, जो लॉ होता है वो अलाउ करता है द चाइनीज गवर्नमेंट टू हैव अ ग्रेटर रोल इन मैनेजमेंट ऑफ प्राइवेट कंपनीज वाया द रिजर्वेशन ऑफ सीट्स इन द बोर्ड ऑफ कंपनीज. दिस इज हाउ चाइना हैज़ द कैपेबिलिटी टू यूज इज प्राइवेट कंपनीज एज द एजेंट ऑफ स्टेट. इसको यूज़ करता है चाइना. हाउएवर सिंस 2018 द लेफ्ट विंगर्स of in the Chinese Communist Party have been demanding the end of private companies, as capitalism has served its purpose of delivering the growth. Communism was able to survive in China because of multiple factors. First, the communism survived in the form of one party system, and there is capitalism in the economy. Chinese communism was flexible. For example, 1949 to 56 it follows Russia like policy. 58 onwards great leap forward ना, जो कि adopted with the context of China. 1976 onward जो है टाइमली रिफॉर्म किए गए इन द फेवर ऑफ कैपिटलिज्म, तो इट वॉज फ्लेक्सिबल. सिंगल एथनिसिटी है चाइना की, अनलाइक दी मल्टी एथनिक USSR एंड अदर कंट्रीज. डेंग जियांगपिंग जो थे had much better control over the party compared to the Mikhail Gorbachev in the Russia, and there was no Boris Yeltsin like figure in China, and China was not leading the Cold War, and hence did not economically beat like USSR. The leadership of Deng Xiaoping में इन्होंने एक there was an incident of democracy wall in 1978. So after the death of Mao, walls had been come up in different cities in China in support of Deng Xiaoping, and here messages were posted on the by the supporters, and when जो Deng consolidated power, these walls were demolished except for one in Beijing, as it was the constituency of Deng. However, when messages on this wall became bold and demanded democratic reforms, Deng cracked down harsh on its supporters, and this democracy wall was demolished. There was an incident of Tiananmen Square in 1989. So here protests began in support of right-wing leader who had been purged by the Deng in to placate the left wing. However, soon the protest took form of a pro-democracy protest, and Deng felt embarrassed and humiliated as Mikhail Gorbachev was on a state visit and the whole world was watching. And some sections expected that, like Eastern Europe, political reforms for multi-party democracy could took place even in China, and communism and one-party system will fail. However, again, Deng cracked down harsh and even tanks were pushed in, and hence Deng again made it clear that he would not compromise with one-party system, and hence the communism in the polity survive in China. So this is the complete history of course of socialism and communism in China, and how China after 1949 getting after getting the formation of People's Republic of China, how it proceeded with its own form of socialism and communism was summarized in this video. होप आपको अच्छा ये वीडियो अच्छा लगा होगा, और अगर अच्छा लगा है तो प्लीज़ लाइक करें, और इसी तरह के वीडियोस के लिए चैनल को सब्सक्राइब करके रखें ताकि आपको टाइमली नोटिफिकेशन मिलती रहे। अपने पीएस ग्रुप में, अपने स्टडी सर्कल में इस ग्रुप को शेयर करें जितना शेयर हो सकता है, अगर आपको काम अच्छा लग रहा है, और कमेंट सेक्शन में कमेंट करें। आपका कोई भी फीडबैक है, कोई भी कमेंट है, आई विल बी हैप्पी टू आंसर दैट। तो थैंक यू, मिलते हैं नेक्स्ट वीडियो में, तब तक के लिए बाय।